Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to our first edition of Rise and Grind New York City, surprise edition. I am your host for today, Brian Benstock, filling in for the one and only Glenn Lundy. Glenn has asked me to fill in for the show today because he is on the West Coast, and I am more nervous than I can explain to you. I'm here at the James Hotel in New York City, where I'll be presenting a meeting this morning to several bankers a little bit later on. And I wanted to say that it's a privilege and an honor to see you guys logging on this morning. Good morning, guys. It's Brian Benstock here. Let's see, who do we have here? We've got Dan. Good morning. Sean, great to see you. How you doing, guys? And again, the shoes that I'm trying to fill are Glenn Lundy's, and I don't believe for a moment that I can fill those shoes, but I wanted to keep the action going. And a couple of hours ago, about 3.5 hours ago, Glenn asked if I would be so kind as to take over the show for him for the day and to share with him my thoughts of what my morning ritual is and what I can share with you guys. And I have to tell you, it's really an honor to meet somebody like Glenn and to spend some time with Glenn. And I know right now he's at a digital dealer in Las Vegas looking to make himself even better. And he's asked me to share with you some of the thoughts that I have. And frankly, as both a dealer and an employee of a company, it's really something that breaks my heart when I see people not appreciate other people. And this is something that we've seen before, and it's something that's unfortunately repeats itself, the cycle over and over again. I had a friend of mine who had a dealership in Texas, and he did a fantastic job with this dealership. And after a point in time, the dealer that he worked for wanted to get back into the business. The dealer was nearly 80 years old, and the dealer started pushing his way back into the dealership and pushed my friend, the manager, out of the store. Sadly, what happened in not too long a period of time, my dear friend, was unemployed. And the dealership that he once took from nothing to an incredible place frankly, started to suffer. And I watched their numbers go from one of the most profitable Acura dealerships in the country to a position where I believe they were sold recently in bankruptcy. And I guess the lesson there is never take your people for granted. You know, never take your people for granted. And it's tough when you're in a position like we are as managers, as leaders, when you're pressing your people to do more and more and more. It's difficult sometimes to take the moment to appreciate the people that you've got. And I just want to say, to my Paragon people, if I've been guilty of that, if I've been guilty of not appreciating you and for what you do every day, day in and day out, then I say, I'm sorry. I'm moving very quickly in my career, trying to grow the store and to grow different things. And I sometimes forget to stop and to say, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And the work that you do in the dealership is nothing short of spectacular. And so my theme for this morning is to take stock of the people that you have around you. Take the time to appreciate the people that you've got there. Take the time to look at them and say, hey, your future is dependent on their future. And if you want to be successful, you've got to help these people come along in their career. I started out an insecure kid in 1982. I took a job selling cars because there was nothing better, frankly, that I could do at the time. And I took the job selling cars until something better came along. Now we're sitting here in 2018, and nothing better has come along. In fact, the automobile business is one of the best kept secrets in business. And for me, that opened up so many incredible doors. I never dreamed that I'd be here today. I'd never dreamed that I'd be running one of the biggest and best and baddest Honda dealerships and Acura dealerships in the country. When I started out selling cars, frankly, all I wanted to do was make enough money to pay the rent. I was living in my parents' basement apartment at the time. And I saw several of the people that were on the floor and what they were doing. And I realized that several of the salespeople there were married. Several of the salespeople there were supporting their family by selling cars. I thought, gee, I'm living in the basement. And if I can earn enough money, if they can earn enough money to support a family, then perhaps I can earn enough money to live a good life. And I started looking at cars. I started looking at houses. I started looking at things. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I started breaking down how many cars did I have to sell to have that car? How many cars did I have to sell to live in that house? And it wasn't too long that I started modeling the top salesperson that was there. The top salesperson at the time was a gentleman named Mike Mednick. And Mike's a friend of mine. And I learned 3 rules early on in the career, that you can do anything as long as you use imitation, observation, and repetition. So I decided to model and mirror the best salesperson that was there, this gentleman, Mike Mednick. And when I looked at Mike, he was so comfortable with his customers. And he said, I'd really like to earn your business. I really appreciate the opportunity to be of service. And I listened to those words and I repeated those words. And sure enough, those words of success started to work for me. And one day I remember, like it was yesterday, sitting behind him at his desk, and I leaned over to the customer and said, I'd really like to earn your business. It'd be very important for me to make you one of my customers. And he turned around and he looked at me like, son of a gun. And the reality is I've been mirroring and modeling success ever since. And so Mike, Nuddy, I'd like to say thank you for helping me and starting me in those days. I'd like to say thank you to Nancy Phillips and Mike Mednick. These two people set a shining example of what salespeople could be like. Mike was a professional. He wore a nice suit and tie. He looked like a flight attendant. Nancy Phillips was and is an elegant, eloquent representation of the automobile business. And then, of course, there was my boss, later to become my partner, Paul Singer. Paul is and was the most elegant and eloquent person I've ever met in the automobile business. That man, the silk hammer, was somebody I aspired to be like. And today, the challenge for us in leadership positions is to become somebody that our salespeople aspire to be like. And I think that's really an incredible task for us to say, hey, I have to be an example, not just to my family, but to the people I work with, for the people that say, you know, I want to be like that guy. I like his work ethic. I like what he does. And it's interesting, today, getting about 3 hours sleep to be here with you. I used to stay in bed and sleep 10 hours a day. I used to not be able to have discipline. I used to always take the easy way out. And working for somebody like Paul Singer taught me the disciplines that you needed to follow. It taught me the disciplines to get up early, to work long hours. And, you know, it's amazing that some of our guys today, they work a 6-hour day and they think that's a half day. I was always taught that a half day is 12 hours. Working 12-hour days, 6 days a week was very normal for us. And today, I see many of the salespeople, they work these schedules 5 days a week. And if you ask them to come in on the day off, they look at you like you're crazy. And I got to tell you, nothing works until you do. And hard work works. And if there's one thing I can say, I wasn't really good when I started out selling cars. But what I had the ability to do was to outwork just about anybody else. And the insecurity and the fear made me work harder than the person next to me, knowing that I wasn't as talented as that person. But I thought I could outwork that person. And I started to read books one at a time and realizing that I wasn't college educated, I wasn't well educated, but that I could still learn. And I started reading books one at a time, reading books on selling. And now I have a library of books on selling. But the books taught me the goals, you know, goals, setting goals, that the 3% of goals, people that have goals earn more money than the 97% of others that didn't. So I started writing down goals and writing the goals down in a book. And I wish I had the goal book that had in it to own a Honda dealership on Northern Boulevard in Queens. Because in 1983, I wrote that down in the book. And it was amazing how, and scary, how when you write down your goals and you write down your dreams, you hit those goals and you hit those dreams. Recently, had a young man challenge me. He said, I challenge you to come down to the facility that I'm working in. I challenge you to come down there and see what you can do. And yesterday I went down there and I looked around and there wasn't a lot of business in that particular business in that particular moment. And I looked around, I sat and I walked through the customer journey in our digital department. And I observed the things that were going right. I observed the things that needed to be adjusted. I spoke with the young manager, Louise, and I asked Louise, what's working, what's not working. She told me a couple of things that were working. And sure enough, 2 or 3 minutes later, I thought, what if we do this? What if we take a page out of Studio 54, where Steve Rubel said there's always another door? And I said, what if we had a customer go through the digital journey, always looking to go through another door? And I gave her my idea. And we sat and we looked. And I realized, I sat there and I just smiled. I had 3 people sitting in front of me and they said, why are you smiling? I said, we found it. We found the key. We've unlocked the code for digital success. We've unlocked the code to do incredible business. And pretty much, I packed up my bags and I got our people went back to the main store. And I know Louise was shaking her head like, that's it? But the reality was I called up a business partner of ours on his development team. And I told him, Joe, I need you to build this for us. And he sat back and said, I can do that. I think that'll work. And sure enough, I think yesterday in the afternoon, we discovered something that can change the game. All because somebody challenged me. And the challenge came from a good place. But the result also came from a good place because I had to put myself in his shoes and say, what would I do? What would the 57-year-old me do if I was given that particular facility to run? And by doing that, I walk through what the customers go through. And I think the journey starts with the customer. You've got to put yourself in the customer's shoes and what would you want? And I think I'd really like to be able to report back to you in a couple of weeks exactly what's going on, exactly what's going to happen. My man Glenn, right now, maybe going through a little bit of a interesting time. And what's the first thing he did? Let me go back to basics. Let me go back to Las Vegas. Let me go back to where people are learning. Let me go back to see what I can get out of business. And I think sometimes it's unfair, some of the things that happen in life. I've not met too many people like Glenn. Glenn is a really good guy. But you have to beware, because there are people out there that get jealous of your success. And, I always tell my people, be careful of that. My partner told me once, when I first became a partner, somebody said to him, you shouldn't have made Ben Stock a partner. He's not any good at used cars. And Paul Singer sat me down and told me that. And I said, he's got to go. He's got to go. I can't have somebody on the team that's betting against me. And Paul Singer told me something that day that I'll never forget. He said, there's two ways somebody can feel about you. They can be envious of you, or they can feel sorry for you. And he said, given a choice, you'd rather them be envious of you than to feel sorry for you. I said, yeah, but boss, the guy I just became a partner. He's telling you I shouldn't have become the partner. He goes, you'd rather him be jealous than feeling sorry for you. And I think there's a good lesson there because frankly, jealousy is natural. Jealousy is telling you you're doing a good job. Jealousy is telling you that other people want what you've got. And my mom, God bless her, who's still alive, always told me when I was younger, people want what you have. And you've got to protect what you've got. And I think those of us that are rising up in our career have to be mindful of that when you grow and as you grow, people are going to want what you have. People are going to look at you and they're going to throw rocks at you. And you've got to get yourself surrounded by people that you trust. And those people that you surround, that you trust, better never let you down. I have a very small circle of friends, very small. But those people I know I can count on. And last night, when Glenn and I were speaking, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, I had told him yesterday, if you ever need anything, to call me. And sure enough, when he called upon me at 12:30 and said, can you do the show? I said, well, Glenn, I'm staying in a hotel. The lighting's not that great. But I asked you if you need something to call me. And I said, of course I'll be there. So many of us have friends that say, if you ever need anything, call me. And you call them, and when you call them and say, oh, if you'd only called me yesterday, I'd have been there for you. But today, I'm sorry, I can't do it. So when Glenn called me, I said, it's really important to me to be the kind of person that he can rely on. Now, the show this morning, I'm not scripted. I'm not really prepared for it. I was actually preparing for a presentation that I have today, this morning in this room. But I told Glenn I'd be there for him. And I'm here for him. I'm here for you, bro. Whatever you need, whenever you need it. Because, there's a couple of things in life that I do right. And one of those things is I think I'm a damn good partner. And if you need somebody you can depend on, you can count on me. And you can count on our team. The people that are on our team, I haven't told you this. You can count on me. I've got your back. And it was a really wonderful lesson for me to relearn when I had a post on Facebook and a former student of mine, Jason Graciano, posted some words of gratitude to me. And I know when Jason was a manager working for us, I was pretty hard on the guy. I mean, I leaned on the guy good because it's not my job to make you like me. It's my job to prepare you for what's coming. It's my job to prepare you for your future. And people don't always understand that. Jason was given an opportunity to become a Nissan dealer. Jason was given an opportunity to become a partner. And Jason, I told two things to. I said, Jason, it's going to be much harder than you ever thought. And Jason, second thing, you'll be okay. It's almost a year now for Jason. And it was much harder than he ever thought. And he'll be okay. Because Jason and I learned how to hustle. Jason and I learned how to grind. Jason and I learned how to dig in. And the lessons that we learned there, they weren't fun for me. And they weren't fun for him. But they prepared him for what the job of being a dealer and a dealer principal is all about. It's stick-to-itiveness. It's being able to come back out there and grind for more. And it was really a special moment in my life when I started running. And I didn't know whether or not I'd like to run. But when my partner was diagnosed with cancer, I said I'm going to run a marathon for him. And I made that declaration in March of 2006. In May of 2006, he passed away. In November of 2006, I'd run my first marathon. I crossed the finish line crying like a baby with a combination of adulation, pain, love, respect, fear. But I've run 26 miles. And I hadn't run a mile since high school. And running that marathon, pushing through that pain, caused me to say, if I can do that, I can do anything. And so I challenge you today on Rise and Grind to do something today that makes you uncomfortable, to do something today that you didn't think you could do, to do something today beyond what your self told yourself you were capable of doing. If you're used to making 10 calls today, make 50 calls today. I challenge you to make 50 calls today. If you're selling 3 cars a day, I challenge you, sell 6 cars today. If you're motivating a team and your team is doing the same as last year, I challenge you to break your all-time record this month. I've had the privilege, by doing things that make me challenge myself, to be around some incredibly special people. Who'd ever thought this Puerto Rican kid from East Islip, Long Island, would be getting to address 100 of the top bankers in the United States of America in 2 hours today? Who'd ever thought I'd be more nervous talking to you guys than I am talking to those bankers? Because you guys got up at 5:30 in the morning. You're special. You're there looking. You're there searching for answers. And I'm telling you, if you seek, you shall find. There are acres of diamonds right underneath your feet, right in the dealership where you're working. You don't need to go to another dealership. You don't need to go to another profession. The acres of diamonds are right underneath your feet. And if all you'll do is dig a little deeper, dig a little further, you'll be able to harvest those diamonds that are right beneath your feet. Many years ago, I had dealeritis. And dealeritis is where you're working in a store, you've got a job as a dealer, and you want to get another store, and you want to get another store. And I went over and I talked to my business partner, and I said to that partner, I found a great dealership in Manhattan, and we can have the dealership together, and I negotiated a great price. And you're being worked by a pro. You'll never know you're being worked by a pro. And Mr. Singer had a way of telling me no without telling me no. And he said, sure, come on over, let's discuss it. And he got out a legal pad, and he opened up the legal pad, and he drew a line across the top, and he drew a line down the middle. And he said, let's go over the costs. And he said, how much is it going to cost to buy the dealership? And I said, only about $2 million. He said, okay, $2 million, check. And how much working capital do you think it's going to require? I said, working capital, what's that? He said, well, you got to start a business. You got to have working capital in the business. And I said, I don't know. He goes, let's put $1 million. I said, they're going to want an image facility. What do you think it's going to cost us to do an image facility? And he put down a number, $2 million. He said, okay, now, before Honda lets you do that, they're going to want the facilities that we're in to be image facilities. And so the Honda store, that's going to be $2 million, so put that down. And the Acura store, they're going to want the same thing, put that down. And by the time he was done adding up the list, I know the number. It came to $20 million. And he said, Brian, at what level would you like to participate? And at the time, I probably had $100,000 to my name. I said, well, I really can't make a meaningful contribution. And he said, okay, what I'd like to do, why don't we concentrate on making this store better? Instead of going out and getting another store, why don't we make this store better? And frankly, I was a little bit frustrated. And he told me the story of Acres of Diamonds. He told me the story of a farmer in South Africa. And the farmer that was in South Africa was seeing all these other people coming to his country and discovering diamonds. And he told his wife, we're going to sell this farm. We're going to sell this farm. And we're going to go buy a diamond mine. We're going to search for diamonds. And sure enough, he sold the farm, moved the family in next door with the neighbors, and he went in search of his acres of diamonds. He went out and he bought a mine, harvested the mine, found no diamonds. Bought another mine, the same thing happened, found no diamonds. And he killed himself by jumping a river. Many years later, a priest went to the farm that he had sold and asked the owner of the home, what is that you have up there? What is that you have on the counter? And he said, it's a big rock. This farm is littered with these rocks. And the person that came to the house said, it's not a rock. That's a diamond. It's a diamond in its raw form. And the owner of the house said, you're kidding me. This entire farm is littered with these rocks. It's a crappy farm. You can't farm anything here because it's littered with these rocks. And what the man had done, he actually sold his farm to go out and find his fortune someplace else. And the farm that he sold was literally loaded with acres of diamonds. That farm is a Golconda farm in Africa. To this day, one of the richest diamond mines in the world. And when Paul Singer told me that story, I said, he's telling me that, man. He's trying to keep me down. He's trying to keep me from growing. This is no good. And thankfully, his office and my office were a block away. And as I'm walking there, I'm saying, I can't believe this guy is doing this to me. I can't believe he doesn't want to expand. And by the time I got over to my office, sanity sunk in. And I realized he's right. There are acres of diamonds right underneath our feet. And there are acres of diamonds for you right underneath your feet where you're sitting today. All you have to do is dig in a little harder. All you have to do is look inside yourself to be able to harvest those diamonds. Glenn gave me an impossible task. The job that he does with this show is second to none. I love the man. I think he's a fantastic representation of everything that's right in this industry. I can't see, I don't have my glasses on right now, and it's 5:45 in the morning, and I see the names of people here. I see Tustin. Hi, Tustin, good morning. I see Janelle. Good morning, Janelle. I see Josh, and I see Vicky, and I say, hey guys, this is Glenn's team. These are Glenn's people getting up at 5:30 in the morning. The guy is in Paris, Kentucky. I asked a friend of mine yesterday, other than the dealership where he used to work, can you name another dealership in Paris, Kentucky? Not one. And sometimes we take for granted the incredible job that some people do. And don't let the time that you appreciate somebody be only after you've lost them. This is my good morning tribute to Glenn Lundy, a fantastic individual that represents the very best in all of us. Good morning. I want you to have a fantastic day, and thank you for being a fan and a friend to Glenn Lundy.